Hi, everybody. I'm Gigi Haycock, and I'm one of the programmers at SF DocFest. And it's my pleasure to have, well, everybody, I'd like you to introduce yourselves, actually. I think that's the best way to go when I go, but 40 Watts from Nowhere, about a pirate radio station in Los Angeles. So, Mara, do you want to start and just kind of say what your
Yes, my role is as music supervisor of the film, which involved about 70 cues from all different bands, from, you know, huge, well-known household names to small bands that broke up in the early 90s. And it was my job to make sure all those were cleared and we had the rights to use them in the film.
wow. It reminds me to say that, you thought making Sue, you just said something like, you thought like, how hard could it be, right? I think that might go toward that, right?
Yeah, so I'm Sue Carpenter. I'm the director and producer of the film, and it's the coming together of the film is very similar to making the radio station, which is it seems like it should be so simple. I had a bunch of footage that dropped in my lap, and I just decided to make a movie, um, and that's what I did.
That's great. And can you introduce yourself? It was Brendan, yeah?
Yeah. So I'm Brandon Jay. I'm also one of the producers on the film,
Yeah.
and I'm the music composer and the music editor. And yeah, I'm super excited to be a part of this project. I connected with Sue a long time ago, and I helped with the station way back when, and she came to interview me for this. And I was like, I would love to help because I know all these bands, and it's very near and dear to my heart. And so I just kind of jumped in, did that kind of stuff. Something to point out about the footage that landed in her lap is like one of the DJs who was a friend of mine and played in a local band called Possum Dixon. He just miraculously like decided to buy like a camera and was like, oh, I'm gonna film some stuff and maybe I'll do something with it. And he filmed like the arc, like every most of what you
Yeah.
see in the film, like he captured and then sat on it because he never was really, he was just like, it was just like a little hobby thing. He never followed through. And then it fell into Sue's lap because um some people did an interactive theater piece based on the book that Sue put out, and they like read the book and they loved it, and they're like, oh, let's create this thing where like they built an actual radio station and like you hear the story about it. So it kind of took off in like theater circles. And then Rob, who's basically he's the director for photography because he shot all this stuff. He's like, oh, I got all this footage, do you want it? And she saw it and she's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And timing wise, it ended up being the last 6 months of the station. Like it captured everything. It was unbelievable. And so she's like, Sue just said, I kind of have to put something together here. So she thought, like, how hard can it be? Let's get an editor and do this and that. And then it just started tumbling along. But there was a lot of kismet and things that happened that really that in itself was just remarkable that he filmed her going up in the helicopter and just like her on the bike everywhere and just everything. It's like that was actually existing is like this crazy miracle. And that he almost, I think he was going to throw the footage away at one point, and then he's just like, oh, it's still there in my garage, I guess I'll give it to her. So
Yeah.
then it kind of came together the way that it did.
It actually really was remarkable to me too. I'm like, no, no, wait a minute. Like, how are all of these moments?
I
So,
know, yeah,
they're very intimate. I mean, there was some just the whole thing just felt organic. I felt like the authenticity of the film and everything and that it was captured in that arc just through, and then of course all the other things that you all threw in with the animations and everything like that. I mean, the whole film, the editing, I would like to say was wonderful too. So,
Yeah.
let's see, I have some questions that I even wrote down.
I
Because
mean,
you
something to
started,
point out also is like everyone that got involved, like Jonathan Stearns that did the animation, he was in one of those bands. Like there's footage of him, like, playing with Abe Lincoln's story. It's like, it's very
yeah,
kismet. Like, Mara was a big part of the scene. Like, really, most of the team assembled was like living in that area. And like, it just kind of came together that way. I mean, really, the editor was the only person that's outside of it. And that was kind of a gift because she didn't have that like she wasn't hanging on to something so she could show it as a universal theme. And I had a concern when I got involved that like it's only going to be interesting to people that were part of that knew the radio station, that were in those bands. But I think because Amanda Laws, the editor, wasn't part of it, she had this outside perspective and she found like the human nature and just found the story of pirate radio stations in general and made
Yeah.
it like super universal where like anyone can see it and be interested in just the story and getting involved with these characters, and you didn't have to be a part of the scene. And I thought that was like this amazing gift that like it lined up that way, because it's just a cool, interesting film, and like I'm really glad that it's a time capsule of a moment that all these people that participated in it can be proud of and see it on the
Yeah.
screen, but that all these other people can be exposed to those cool bands that you wouldn't know outside of that as well,
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, Sue, about I love how you were walking up the stairs when the FCC was coming down and you were like, I just blurted it out. I just said, yes, that's our antenna. I really thought at that point in the film that actually that antenna was going to give you another couple years.
Really? I mean, I wish that it'd given me another couple years, because that was really our glory days. It was what I had always wanted for the station, which was to have all of Los Angeles, which is insane because those licenses cost millions and millions of dollars. And for a very brief moment, we had that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, that the whole thing about the licensing and all that makes me crazy, just so you know. I'm thinking, so they're public airwaves, and yet we have to be a millionaire companies in order to be able to get a frequency. And you were saying at one point I had to buy a radio station was going to be what, $20,000 or
20 million.
20 million. Sorry, that's true.
For a million.
I undersold that. Sorry. But it's like you co-opted something that should be for the people, which is definitely, was it Duniger? Is that how you say?
Stephen Dunifer.
Radio Free Berkeley, and how he kind of gave a little bit of his court case, gave a little bit of space for you.
Yeah, he's going to be there at the screening, since that's
good.
going to be our Bay Area premiere, and he lives in Berkeley, and he still does the exact same thing that he was doing 30 years ago. He's still building transmitters. He's still supplying them to people, some of whom are operating illegally, some of whom are operating with a new class of low power FM license that he helped pioneer because of this whole movement that's part of this film.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stephen Dunifer, Free Radio Berkeley, still exists.
That's so great, because I know it's like the 100-watt, you had like 3 to 4 miles, I think, but now people, communities, minority groups, churches, whatever, they can now get a license, right? Whereas, did it say at the end of the film that people who had pirated cannot get licensed?
Correct. Yeah, so there was this great victory that lasted for a hot second.
Yeah.
by Congress, who is like, no, all of you guys that did that illegally, you're out.
Yeah.
I can't do it again.
You can't. Okay.
I can't do it again, legit.
When you were moving out of your apartment in Silver Lake, was that just the equipment, or you actually left?
That was the whole thing. I moved out of that apartment because imagine what that would feel like. You have this thing that's running 24/7 under your roof. I didn't want to live in like this ghost apartment that suddenly became nothing. So that was real. Like, I moved the whole thing out. I moved myself out. I moved across the neighborhood. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And just the music alone, wow. I mean, just being able to have the access to hearing all of that. And the progression is so interesting when we talk about arcs, right? Is where it became at one point kind of out of your control, Sue, right? You're like, this has a life of its own, and all this music coming out of it. And the personalities and all that, I mean, I wish I was there. That's all I can say, during that time, because it was really special, and it's a moment in time you can't recreate. Yeah. And there just seems to be a lot of love in that place, even though you were taking care of a lot of people. So buying them toilet paper and things like that.
Yeah, I feel like that I was really lucky to tap into it at the time. And the thing is, like, reconnecting with all these people who I had lost touch with for literally decades, it's still there. I mean, you can tell in Brandon's enthusiasm. I hadn't spoken with Brandon probably since like 1997 or 1998.
Oh, wow.
And then I interviewed him because he was a critical part of the story. He wanted to come on board. And, just the whole point of Community, it was Brandon who's like, hey, you should reach out to Mara to do the music. Hey, you should reach out to Jonathan to do the animation, because everybody was part of this whole scene, which is what Brandon had said earlier.
Right.
And I think everybody just had a phenomenal amount of, it was when it was an analog time and community was really important. And I feel like this film sort of showcases that, like the importance of community and connecting with human beings in a real space and time.
Yeah, and it's so different than how you all went viral, right? Compared to what it's like to go viral now. You know, in it was that was a huge impact on me in just watching it, just realizing this is word of mouth. People saying, I don't know if anybody's listening to me. You know, the DJs, you know, and then saying, well, okay, maybe I'll put out that I'm going to put a car on,
Give
or
away a car, yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's so many lovely details like that. And um, I felt like such a community that you all talk about, and that is really very, very evident in the film. From, you know, you doing just 2 hours yourself to not being scared to push play versus, you know, having people just come in and out, and then, you know, it evolving into the Red Hot Chili Peppers, or, you know, that kind of stuff coming in there, you know. Um, what does it feel like now with the way things are with radio and stuff? Is some of this still happening in a different way, in your opinion?
I'm gonna defer because I feel like Mara hasn't really spoken yet. I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry, man. Yeah.
Mara?
I mean, one of the things that I do think is interesting about the film is it brings people back to a time where you really couldn't hear any of this stuff anywhere. So there's the moment where you have someone hearing Elliott Smith and just like freaking out over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That isn't going to happen now, because if someone says to me, you should check out Elliott Smith, I can have Elliott Smith in my ears within 5 seconds, you know? So I feel like kind of it's a kind of old school. I think I've lost where the question is. What were you asking about?
Well, just more like what it's like now versus like how you kind of said, you touched on it, is being able to be like that wow factor, that where we don't have that so
I
much.
mean, there is a wow factor. It's just, it's a much quicker wow. It's less rare. You know, it's the kind of thing. I mean, I think now it's a lot easier to kind of find your people online. Like back then, it was hard to find other people who listened to the same music that we did, who liked local bands or who liked indie labels and indie record shopping. And it was so exciting to be able to meet a group of people who was into that. Now it's a lot easier to kind of meet your friends that way. You know, there's a lot of online groups you can join and things like that. So I think this film does a good job of conveying just how hard it was to find your people and how rare it was, and how rare it was that this group was able to be united around this.
Yeah, definitely came across that way. That's a wonderful way to say it all too.
I mean,
Because
so,
go ahead.
oh no, I'm sorry, Gigi, go ahead.
No. I was looking to see what I should ask next. So go
I
on.
was just gonna add that like the film like really just scratches on the surface of the enormity of the reach of the station, even though in its early stages when it wasn't citywide, when it was still like within this neighborhood, it touched so many people and there was so many DJs. It's like really you only see a handful of it. Like when you read the credits, you're like all of a sudden there's this huge list of like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
because they would all bounce into each other and be like, hey, can my friend, you know, like
Mhm.
Pat from Weezer like came in and did a show, and like, can this person come and do like everyone was so excited about it just in listening to it that they all wanted to like get into the station and do a show or guest on it, that it was like this wide array of Los Angeles musicians, like not just in the Silver Lake scene, but just like people that like got turned on to it, people that would drive into the neighborhood to listen to it because they, you know, couldn't get it somewhere else. And it was just like it was broad, and it was like the 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 diversity in the programming on the station was just like so wonderful and crazy pants. And like we scratch on the surface because that's what Rob Sullivan like filmed, but it was just like there's a host of like, it's so funny because like we debuted at Slam Dance, and we were doing a Q&A, and Sue was up there talking, and someone's like, oh yeah, I was a DJ, and she's like, oh okay, they never met each other, and he had a show for like 2 years.
Wow.
It's like it was such a funny thing, just like, oh yeah, what was your name? He's like, oh yeah, I did a show, I was at your apartment for 2 years consistently, and I never met you.
In the
It was
middle
just
of the
like,
night. He was there. He had a show from 2 to 4 in the morning.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why you weren't up, Sue.
Right. But it was so many people, so many DJs, it was so much music, it was so much diversity. It was this wonderful little like moment in time. And
Yeah.
like, it's so cool that there's like some kind of document of it. And just it built like there was this existing community, and it gave everybody like a voice and a connector. And there was that in the clubs that we mentioned, and like the Tropical, like cafe, like there were all these little spots, but this was like a one unifying thing, because you didn't need to be in one spot to connect with it. You just turn on the radio and you're connected to this thing.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Well, it was interesting to me, the juxtaposition of when you went to the festival and you have your, little, you're playing music at your spot, and then you have the evil overlord. No, you know what I mean? Like the other more right next to you. Like I'm like, who can plan that to have that happen? It just was one of those, like, it just underlined a little bit more of what you all have gone through, I think, to be able to get your radio and music heard.
Yeah, I love that you picked up on all of that. And I still marveled that that's another piece of footage that we had, that he was like, Sully is what we call him, was on the street filming that street fair, which was a huge deal back in the day. And got that moment where you could see the little radio station that could being situated right next to this massive commercial station with like huge stacks of speakers.
Right.
And you literally see the battle like right there.
Right. Yeah. That's again the just and all just not even that, but the archival footage that you found as well. I mean, when you have the FCC in the very beginning talking about really what the radio waves are supposed to be for and who they're supposed to be for, and then before the telecommunications consolidation and all that stuff. I mean, it's all that stuff. It's just interesting that you were able to. It was a fabric of the excitement and also what you were up against. So it was really amazing, and I hope it's playing at the Roxy, I believe. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you said. He's going to be there. Are any of you going to be able to be there?
I'm going to be there.
Yay.
I know Stephen Dunfer is going to be there. The lawyer is going to be there.
Great.
So I interviewed for the film, and because he was part of who crafted the whole legal argument to allow these pirate radio stations to exist for the 3 years that they did.
Yeah.
And then Brandon and Mara, are you going to be there?
Not going to be there.
Oh, well.
I'm gonna try my darndest. I as a side note, I lost my home in the Eden Canyon fire.
Oh,
And I started a foundation called Altadena Musicians, where we connect people that have extra instruments with those that lost everything. And that's kind of taken off, and it's been great. And so we have a couple functions going on. And if people want to help that are watching this, you can download our app called Instrumental Giving, and you can make some equipment available, and you can connect with people that need it. But we have an event going on right before. We have also people that lost their record collections. We're big on replacing their whole record collection by doing like little pop-ups where they show the app that they're verified, that they're impacted, and then they can shop for free. So, but I'm planning on getting there if I can get out of this one other obligation, because I really don't want to miss it. I'm so invested in this film because I think it's amazing. I want people to see it. And it's not too far from LA to San Francisco. So I think I can
not
try to
no.
make that happen. Yeah, right.
Oh, wow. I thank you all so much. And I was really, I watched a lot of movies and this one really stuck out to me a lot. But I really wish you all the success with it. And I'm excited it's going to be at the Roxy, because that's a really cool theater.
I'm excited it's going to be at the Roxy. I loved San Francisco when I lived there. I feel like I lived in San Francisco at a perfect time, and then I moved to LA at a perfect time. So I sort of got the best of both worlds. It'll be really fun to be back.
Right. Good. All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time today. And I have a good time when you're in San Francisco. And Mara, thank you so much. And for, I mean, seriously, getting all the music on in the movie.
Yeah, I have to give her like a huge kudos. Like, and people don't necessarily think about it, but it's like the undertaking of a film about music. Like, I've watched a lot of other ones recently, and like they have music in it, but like not even nearly as much. It's so much because we're having to show the people DJing and like what they're listening to, and it's just like the enormity of clearing that many songs
Yeah.
for the budget that we have was
Mhm.
just like miracle of miracles. Like she jumped through extraordinary hoops to make that happen,
Thank
and
you.
it's it shows it actually reflects the time because we can get the appropriate music and not have to substitute something in that doesn't work. And like big popular songs by like Rage Against the Machine and the Breeder,
Yeah.
like she said, like it's and Elliott Smith down to all the locals, but even like tracking down the local musicians and getting like
Yeah.
good recordings of these things that were just like snippets before the digital age of where all video and digital assets are readily available and you can record. Like it was a little like things kind of came together in this way that it was a little bit like a meant to be thing. And so I'm super excited for people to see it and share it with other people. Like I think it's a really special film.
Oh, me too. Thank you all so much. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you, Gigi.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much, Gigi.
Bye. Okay. Just learning how, where is it?
So were you our advocate?
I was your advocate. I was the one that chose it.
I can tell that you really were into it. I really appreciate it because I've never made a movie before, and the film festival thing is very difficult to navigate. I just like it when people respond to it in a very authentic way, which I definitely feel from the way that you interviewed us.
Oh, thank you
That's
so
a
much.
lot
Because
to
you know
me.
what? It
Yeah.
is not my favorite thing to do, only because I'm a little bit, I mean, I don't know, self-conscious, I guess, on camera. So
Aren't we all?
I don't know, you didn't seem to be, but so thank you. That's actually going to make me feel really good. My husband going to be like, see, I told you so.
Awesome. Well, hopefully I'll see you up there, right?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
you'll see Jeff and some of the other programmers, but I'm not going to be there. But
Okay.
yeah, but I'm there in spirit
All right. Well,
because
thank
I
you.
love the Roxy.
Yay.
Yay.
All right.
Have
Have
a
a good day.
great day. So
Bye.
nice meeting you.
Bye.
Bye.